What's up, everyone? I hope you're doing good. I want to say thanks for checking in on our channel. When you get a chance, if you can, if you like the info you're getting on this channel, just go ahead and subscribe. Hit that link at the bottom and give us a thumbs up on the video so we can provide you more value. One of the things we're going to talk about today is this book, Outwitting the Devil. This is probably one of my favorite books. It was written by Napoleon Hill. And one of the things it talks about that's a big part of this book is the drifters and non-drifters. And we're going to talk, and there's a lot of talking points in this book, but one of the main things we're going to talk about is how we drift with our thoughts, how we drift away from what we want, the focus we want to have, and especially when you're having difficult times in your life. One of the things we realized when our family went through some serious challenges a few years ago, when our oldest passed away, and when you think about it, when you got overwhelming pain, overwhelming trauma, overwhelming challenges in your life, difficulties that you're going through, it's so easy to drift. It's so easy to drift where your thoughts start going where you don't want them to go. Those thoughts that you don't want to have, those are those thoughts that are so important to control. And when we're going through the real situations in life, difficult times, it's really hard to control those thoughts, but you got to be really conscious of what you're thinking about, what you're focused on, because if not, your thoughts will go and it'll literally take you to places that you don't want to be at. And that is the whole concept of being a drifter. And drifter works in many different ways, right? You can drift in your food, you can drift in your workouts, you could drift in your relationship, you could drift in your faith, you can drift in every single thing you're doing. You can become a drifter. And as we're talking about the mind, the thoughts is the first thing that puts you in perspective to start thinking things that you don't want to be thinking. And when you start doing that and you start going down that path, it's very difficult to stop it if you don't catch it. And what happens is you'll look back, and sometimes it's a day, it's a week, it's a month. Some people months, sometimes some people years, that they catch themselves that they're so far behind because they've drifted so far because of those pressing thoughts that they don't want to have. Now, when you look at the non-drifters are the ones that have really mastered the idea of controlling their thoughts. Where they see they're getting off track, they stop it before it gets too far ahead where they can't stop it. That momentum that you don't want to go, the momentum you don't want to have as being a drifter, you can stop that by putting yourself in perspective to build momentum as a non-drifter. And all that is just making sure that when you have those thoughts, which we all of them have, especially if you're having a difficult time, it's going to be hard for you to say, well, just turn a switch and just turn them off. You hear a lot of people say, well, you just stop the negative thoughts and just have positive. Well, if it was that easy, everybody would do that. The reality is you're going to have more pressing negative thoughts than you're going to have positive. But if you can position yourself to be a non-drifter in your thoughts, what will happen is eventually you'll start, if you really work on this, eventually you'll start to catch it. When those thoughts come about, you'll stop them and you'll catch it, and you'll realize there's certain things you do when you start to drift with your thoughts. For some people, it's their food. For some people, it's their addiction of food. It could be pornography. It could be social media scrolling. It could be having arguments with your family. It could be you being an aggressive individual. It could be you being very timid and making sure being at home, wanting to sleep more, right? Would you start putting yourself in a perspective where you start really drifting away from the goals that you have on what you want to do and the forward progress you want to have. And if you can be one of those individuals that can really focus on being a non-drifter, and you identify and you start catching those thoughts before they take over your habits, before they take over your mind, now you're in position where if you do drift a little bit, you drift less. Right? If it would have taken you weeks or a month, right, to get out of that area where you're drifting way too far, maybe now it's only a few hours. Maybe then it's a few weeks, maybe it's a week. And people might say, man, that's a long time. Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of people going to watch this that you've drifted far and you're operating, but you're really not operating. You're just drifting. You're letting the wind take you wherever it goes, and you look like you're completely normal. To everybody around you, you might look normal. You might look like everything is okay. But the reality is you're drifting so far away from your goals. You're drifting so far away from the mentality you want to have. And to bring it back is important. And when you catch it, the baby steps are important. And you have to give yourself the recognition and give yourself the validation that when you identify and you start to make those changes, make sure you give yourself the credit, right? Sometimes if you know it was taking you a month to get yourself, I know for me, it was roughly almost 90 days where I just drifted far. When Jeremy passed away, it was about 90 days where I was drifted so far. I gained almost like 40, 50 pounds during that time. Just eating anything I could. You don't want to get out of bed. You're crying all the time. You're just really banged up. You're messed up as an individual. And the reality is, you don't realize it when you're going through it, but if you don't snap out of it and you really don't put yourself in perspective to change those things, you'll drift so far. So if you start correcting it where now you're drifting only a few days, where you drifted maybe before it was a month, but now it's a week, right? Where you broke out of it and you had that forward progress, or maybe now it's hours, right? So instead of it being a day, now you had 2-3 hours. Then it's minutes. So instead of it being an hours, now you had 10 minutes of a pity party, we call it, right? And now you fix that pity party right there on the spot. And now you're looking at where you can now correct it and say, I'm not going to lose more days. I'm not going to lose more hours. I'm not going to lose weeks. I'm not going to lose months. I'm not going to lose years. There's people who lose years drifting. Years they lose them drifting because their mind just wanders and it goes and look, for a lot of people, there's some serious challenges they're going through in their lives, serious obstacles that they're going through, that it's easier from the outside to say, just figure it out, right? Just change your thoughts, be positive, focus on different things. From the outside in, it's easy to say. From the inside out, it's hard to be able to really make those changes. But if you work on them, you can put yourself in position where you're not a drifter, where you are part of the non-drifters and you're not part of the drifters. And now you're having that forward progress you want to have. If you like this video, click down below, subscribe, like, share with your friends. Really appreciate you coming to our channel. Looking forward to seeing you again.